Hollywood's most unhinged director Quentin Tarantino added a new title to his resume: Paul Dano Film Critic. But when this bizarre obsession hit television, it turned into a complete disaster in just 43 seconds. When the lights blazed in Marina, Steven's studio, nobody could have predicted what was about to unfold. The set of Morning Glory with Marina, one of America's most popular talk shows, was preparing for another live broadcast as usual. Marina Stevens had hosted thousands of celebrity guests during the 10 years she'd been running her program. But today's guest would become the biggest test of her career. 5 minutes? Shouted producer Jennifer Walsh, adjusting her headset. Marina checked her makeup one last time. Today's guest was special. Quentin Tarantino was one of Hollywood's most controversial directors. The creator of countless masterpieces from Kill Bill to Django Unchained, Tarantino had recently been talking about a strange obsession: Paul Dano. Marina's research team had examined Tarantino's recent interviews. The director spoke glowingly of Paul Dano at every opportunity. He said he analyzed every performance from Little Miss Sunshine to There Will Be Blood, and even considered himself a Paul Dano expert. Most bizarrely, he had updated his LinkedIn profile to include Paul Dano Film Critic as a title in his resume. 3 minutes! Marina's pulse quickened. She planned to ask Tarantino about this obsession. This was a normal interview question, wasn't it? After all, everyone was curious. Backstage, Quentin Tarantino paced in his casual Hawaiian shirt and sneakers. Despite being 59 years old, he still carried the energy of his youth. Coffee cup in hand, he was in constant motion. His assistant Rebecca was reminding him of last-minute notes. "Quentin, you'll talk about your new film." "Marina is very experienced, just relax," Rebecca said. "Hey, I'm already relaxed. We'll see what films this lady has actually watched," Tarantino replied, wearing that characteristic grin. 2 minutes. Came the call. Marina glanced at her notes one last time. Tarantino's filmography was impressive, but this Paul Dano thing was intriguing. Maybe she could learn the origin of this strange obsession. Audiences were curious too. Tarantino's social media posts about Paul Dano had gone viral. 1 minute. The studio cameras took their positions. Tarantino finished his last sip of coffee behind the door. Marina took her seat with a big smile. 10 seconds. The lights came up fully. Cameras started rolling. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Glory with Marina. I'm Marina Stevens, and we have a very special guest today. One of Hollywood's most creative directors, Quentin Tarantino, is with us. Let's give him a big round of applause. Music played as Tarantino walked onto the stage. The audience stood and applauded. He greeted Marina and took his seat. "Quentin, how does it feel to be here again?" "Hey Marina, fantastic! I've missed the studio. Has anything changed since my last visit?" Tarantino asked, looking around. "Still the same beautiful old studio. You, however, seem more energetic than ever. New projects, new ideas." "Yeah, we're constantly working. You know, cinema never stops." Marina smiled. "Speaking of which, there's been a very interesting development recently. Your posts about Paul Dano on social media have gone viral. You've even listed yourself as a Paul Dano film critic on LinkedIn. How did this come about?" Tarantino's expression changed instantly. His smile grew, but a strange gleam appeared in his eyes. "Oh, that? This is a very serious matter, Marina. Paul Dano is probably the most underrated actor of this generation. I'm just trying to correct the injustice." "Injustice? What do you mean?" Asterisk, asterisk. Look, everyone talks about Leonardo DiCaprio, Christian Bale, but Paul Dano? This guy acted opposite Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood and overshadowed him. He did an acting clinic with a dead corpse in Swiss Army Man, in Little Miss Sunshine. Marina interrupted. "Yes, but Quentin, isn't this a bit obsessive? I mean, adding a critic title to LinkedIn." Tarantino's expression hardened. "Did you say obsessive?" "Well, this could be considered somewhat abnormal behavior." "Abnormal?" Tarantino's voice rose. "Marina, do you know who I am?" The atmosphere in the studio suddenly tensed. Cameramen held their positions, but everyone could sense something was going wrong. "Of course I know, Quentin, I'm Quentin fucking Tarantino!" He exploded. "The man who made Pulp Fiction. The person who created Kill Bill. And you're telling me my opinions about Paul Dano are abnormal? Marina's face went pale. Quentin, I was just dot dot dot.
You know what, Marina? You don't understand anything. Did you watch Paul Dano's performance in 12 Years a Slave? Did you see his Brian Wilson portrayal in Love and Mercy? Of course you didn't. You and your research team are only interested in superficial tabloid stories. The audience began to feel uncomfortable. Some were looking at each other, trying to understand what was happening. Marina tried to recover. Quentin, let's calm down. I'm just asking about things the audience is curious about. The audience? The audience understands real art, Marina. You don't. Let's talk about Paul Dano's performance in Okja, his emotional connection with the child actor in that film. But of course, you don't watch Netflix films. I watch many films, Quentin. Really? So what was Paul Dano's first film? Marina froze. Well, you don't know. He acted in The Newcomers in 2001. A small role, but his talent was obvious. Then came LIE in 2002. Did you watch this film, Marina? No, but of course you didn't. You're a talk show host, but your cinema culture is zero. I'm a Paul Dano expert because I take my job seriously. Producer Jennifer Walsh told Marina through the ear mic to go to commercial break. But Marina couldn't hear it. She was under Tarantino's attack. Quentin, I think you're exaggerating a bit. Am I exaggerating? How many times have you watched Swiss Army Man? Once. Once. You need to watch that film at least 5 times. You need to study deeply to understand the Farting Corpse movie. Everyone in the studio was shocked. Tarantino had stood up and was gesticulating. You don't understand Paul Dano's range. He's going to play the Riddler in the Batman. This casting choice is genius. But the media ignores this. Instead, they're interested in other ridiculous nonsense. Marina made one last attempt. Okay, Quentin. Paul Dano is a talented actor, but this LinkedIn title is really... LinkedIn title? I am Paul Dano's greatest critic. This isn't just a title, it's a mission. I'm defending America's most underrated actor. But you're a director, Quentin, not a critic. Who said I can't be a critic? I'm both a director and a critic. Just like Francois Truffaut did both, so do I. Tarantino was now completely out of control. He was talking while waving his arms. Paul Dano's unfinished scene in There Will Be Blood is one of the most underrated moments in cinema history. But nobody talks about this. Marina was panicking. Quentin, please calm down. I won't calm down. Paul Dano is experiencing injustice. He portrayed Steven Spielberg's father in The Fabelmans. This man is at the peak of his range. But tabloid media ignores this. The audience was now looking at each other, wondering how long this would continue. Tarantino was gesticulating as if he was going to throw his microphone. You know what, Marina? Because of surface-level hosts like you and your kind, real artists don't get recognition. Method actors like Paul Dano stay in the shadows. Quentin, this is very unfair. Unfair? Can you interpret Paul Dano's performance in Prisoners? The psychological thriller he played with Hugh Jackman? Marina was completely lost. I didn't fully focus on that film. You didn't focus. That's the problem. You don't do your own work. I analyze every single film of Paul Dano, frame by frame. Tarantino pulled out his phone. Look, I have a list of all Paul Dano's films on my phone. Chronological order. Every single performance from 2001 to today. Marina was in disbelief. Quentin, this is a bit what? This is dedication. This is passion. You're a simple talk show host, but I'm a real artist. Paul Dano appreciation is part of that. Complete silence had fallen over the studio. Everyone understood that Tarantino had lost it. The Good Heart 2009, Taking Woodstock 2009, Cowboys and Aliens 2011. I've memorized them all. Paul Dano filmography is my area of expertise. Marina looked at the producer as a last resort. Jennifer Walsh was making frantic hand signals. Quentin, maybe we should take a commercial break. Commercial break? I haven't even talked about Paul Dano's TV performance in Escape at Dannemora yet. He was magnificent in the limited series. Marina stood up. Okay, Quentin, this interview ends here. Ends? I haven't talked about the environmental message in Okja yet. Paul Dano had incredible chemistry with Tilda Swinton in that film. Security guards started moving toward the stage. Tarantino noticed this. Don't you guys know anything about Paul Dano either? His performance in The Fabelmans deserves an Oscar nomination. Marina turned off her microphone. The broadcast is over. But Tarantino wouldn't stop. Paul Dano in Justice, America's most underrated actor. I am his champion. Security guards approached Tarantino, but he resisted. I've been a fan since Little Miss Sunshine. The uncle-niece dynamic he created with Abigail Breslin was magnificent. The studio audience had now stood up, watching what was happening. Some had started taking out their phones and filming. Empathizing with a corpse in Swiss Army man. This is the peak of acting technique. But nobody appreciates this. Tarantino was finally escorted off stage by security, but his voice could still be heard. Paul Dano deserves recognition. I am his biggest advocate. Marina Stevens had experienced the most shocking moment of her career. The studio remained silent. When the cameras stopped rolling, everyone tried to process what had happened. Marina's assistant, Hannah, ran up to her. Marina, are you okay? That man had completely lost his mind. Marina was still in shock. I just asked a normal question. About the Paul Dano obsession. Was it really a normal question? Asked producer Jennifer. This guy wrote Paul Dano critic on LinkedIn. Wasn't that a red flag? Marina sat down. Maybe we should have done our research better. We didn't know how deep this obsession was. Backstage, Tarantino was still shouting. Paul Dano's Riddler performance in The Batman will remain underrated, mark my words. Rebecca was trying to calm Tarantino down. Quentin, please calm down. You're on television. Rebecca, they don't understand Paul Dano. He was brilliant even in The Girl Next Door. Quentin, this obsession is going too far. Maybe you should consider therapy. Tarantino turned around. Therapy? Paul Dano appreciation doesn't require therapy. This is passion. This is dedication. Security guards prepared to escort Tarantino out of the building. The silence after I'm finished and there will be blood, that's pure cinema. But nobody understands that this is genius. Tarantino was finally escorted out of the building, but continued shouting outside. Paul Dano did a masterclass in Swiss Army Man, breakthrough in corpse acting. Everyone left in the studio was still in shock. Marina's manager, Philip, came up to her. Marina, this video will definitely go viral. We need to prepare our damage control plan. Damage control? I was just doing my job. Yes, but you triggered Tarantino. This Paul Dano obsession is obviously a sensitive subject. Marina nodded. Who could have known that asking a question about a title would cause such an explosion? Jennifer Walsh joined them. Guys, it's already trending on social media. The hashtag Quentin Paul Dano is going viral. Marina checked her phone. Quentin Paul Dano was indeed a trending topic on Twitter. Video clips had already started being shared. Oh my God, this spread so fast. The production team was still trying to recover. Cameraman Dave came up to them. Marina, I've never seen anything like this before. The guy was really a Paul Dano fanatic. Fanatic? This is obsession level, Dave. Not normal fandom. Paparazzi had started gathering outside the studio. Videos of Tarantino's explosion were getting millions of views on social media. Marina's assistant Hannah was worried. Marina, is this good or bad for us? This kind of drama brings ratings, but also creates controversy. I don't know, Hannah. I've never encountered anything like this. Philip was talking on the phone. Yes, I understand. Entertainment Tonight is requesting an interview. He turned to Marina. The media circus has begun. Everyone wants to learn your perspective. My perspective? I just asked a question. Jennifer was checking social media analytics on her laptop. Guys, this is incredible. Quentin Paul Dano got 500,000 mentions in 2 hours. Paul Dano himself is trending. Marina was curious. What did Paul Dano say? He hasn't said anything yet, but he shared a story on Instagram. I'm honored but confused, with an emoji. Marina laughed. At least he's giving a normal reaction. Tarantino's manager Brad came to the studio with an apologetic expression. Marina, I'm very sorry. Quentin's Paul Dano subject has become very triggering lately. Triggering? What do you mean? For the past few months, he's been researching Paul Dano, analyzing his films, writing articles. It's become an obsession. Marina was surprised. Is he really writing articles? Yes, he published 12 articles on Medium in the series Paul Dano, America's Most Underrated Actor. 12 articles? Are you serious? Brad nodded. And each one has a minimum of 3,000 words. He does deep analysis. Jennifer was interested. Have you read these articles? I read a few. Actually, they're very detailed and professional. The problem is the obsession level, Marina thought. Maybe he's actually become an expert. Being an expert is one thing. Obsession is another, Marina. Quentin has set up a Paul Dano shrine at home? Shrine? Yes, posters of all Paul Dano's films, signed photos, even a prop replica from Swiss Army Man. This information surprised everyone. Questions began forming in Marina's mind. Brad, when did this obsession start? After watching The Batman last year, Quentin was so impressed by Paul Dano's Riddler performance that he started researching his filmography. And now he's in this state. Yes, now he sees himself as Paul Dano's advocate. He feels it like a mission. Marina's phone was ringing. Unknown number. Hello? Marina Stevens, this is Paul Dano. Marina froze. Paul Dano, the real Paul Dano. Yes, I'm the real Paul Dano. I saw Tarantino's explosion today. I want to talk to you. Of course. What do you want to say? I know, Quentin. He's a good man, but this obsession is very strange. It's uncomfortable for him to be so intense about me. Marina got excited. Paul, would you come on my talk show? Can we discuss this situation? I'll think about it. But first I need to talk to Quentin. This situation is weird. I understand. But it's really a very interesting situation. Marina, I'm just a guy trying to do acting. This idol worship is disturbing. After the phone hung up, Marina turned to her team. Guys, Paul Dano called. What? Hannah shouted. The real Paul Dano? Yes. And he said he's uncomfortable with Tarantino's obsession. Jennifer got excited. This is becoming an incredible story, Marina. If you also host Paul Dano as a guest, this could be very big. A Tarantino versus Paul Dano situation? Philip was worried. But won't this be too controversial? It might trigger Quentin even more. Marina thought. Maybe we should reconcile Paul Dano and Quentin. Brad shook his head. Quentin is in a very emotional state right now. Reconciliation talk might be difficult. Well, let's talk to Paul Dano first. Let's learn what he thinks. Hannah opened her laptop. Marina, let's research Paul Dano's filmography. If we're going to do an interview, we should be prepared. Good idea. And this time, we won't be obsessive like Tarantino. Jennifer laughed. So we won't watch Swiss Army Man 5 times? Absolutely not. Outside, the media circus was growing. Entertainment Tonight, Extra, Access Hollywood. Everyone wanted an interview from Marina. Philip hung up his phone. Marina, invitation came from Jimmy Fallon. He wants to discuss this situation on The Tonight Show. Really? This is very big. And Ellen DeGeneres' team also called. Marina was surprised. This has become a complete media frenzy. A Quentin Paul Dano is currently trending worldwide. International media is also showing interest. Hannah was checking analytics. Marina, today's episode of our show got 10 million views on YouTube in 3 hours. 10 million, this is incredible. And the comments section has become a complete Paul Dano discussion forum. Marina started reading the comments. There's someone writing, Tarantino's right. Paul Dano is underrated. There's also someone writing, "This man needs help." Jennifer joined. But most comments appreciate Tarantino's passion. Really? Yes, most people writing, "At least someone recognizes Paul Dano's talent." This situation made Marina think. Maybe Tarantino's seemingly crazy obsession was actually a justified cause. Guys, maybe we misunderstood Tarantino. Philip was surprised. What do you mean? Maybe Paul Dano is really underrated and Tarantino is the only one who realizes this. Hannah turned her laptop around. Marina, let's look at Paul Dano's award history. Good idea. Let's do research. There Will Be Blood, SAG nomination. 12 Years a Slave. Very minor role. The Batman, award season hasn't come yet, Marina thought. He hasn't won many major awards. Exactly. Maybe Tarantino is right. Jennifer joined. Swiss Army Man was a very weird film, but Paul Dano's performance was really unique. And he was very good in Little Miss Sunshine too. Marina made her decision. Guys, we need to investigate this story deeper. What do you mean? Is Paul Dano really underrated? Is Tarantino's point valid? Philip was worried. Marina, are you starting to defend Tarantino? No, but we should be objective. Maybe there's a valid point behind this obsession. Hannah was excited. This would be an amazing angle, Marina. Is Quentin right about Paul Dano? Exactly. We can do investigative journalism. Jennifer got excited. Let's talk to film critics. Let's get opinions from industry insiders. And of course, we'll also do a detailed interview with Paul Dano himself. Brad interrupted. Guys, don't forget Quentin either. He's in a very vulnerable state right now. Marina showed empathy. You're right, Brad. We need to talk to Quentin too. But first he needs to calm down. Of course. Let's give him time. Philip's phone rang. Guys, this is E. News. They want a statement. Marina thought. For now, let's say no comment. We'll give a proper response after investigating. Smart move. When Marina went home at the end of the day, her head was still occupied with what had happened. Tarantino's explosion had gone viral, Paul Dano had called. The media frenzy had begun. But what she was most curious about was Tarantino really right? She found Swiss Army Man on Netflix and started watching. The film was really weird, but Paul Dano's performance was impressive. Maybe Quentin has a point, she murmured to herself. She also watched Little Miss Sunshine. Again, impressive performance. This guy might really be underrated. Marina opened her laptop and started researching. She examined Paul Dano's career trajectory, critical reception, and box office performances. The pattern was clear. Consistently good performances, but no major mainstream recognition. Interesting, she thought. Her phone rang. It was Paul Dano. Marina, I thought about it. We can do an interview. Great, Paul. When is convenient? Tomorrow afternoon? But let it be like a casual conversation. I don't want to attack Tarantino. Of course, it will be a supportive atmosphere. Good. Because I love Quentin. It's just that this obsession is weird. After the phone hung up, Marina excitedly called her team. Guys, Paul Dano is coming tomorrow. This story was gonna get even bigger. The next morning, studio preparations began. Everyone was excited about the Paul Dano interview. Marina had done her final research. Paul Dano was indeed a very talented but under-recognized actor. Maybe Tarantino's crazy obsession was actually a reasonable cause. Today she would ask these questions to Paul Dano. And maybe there would be a chance to bring Tarantino and Paul Dano together. This could be Hollywood's strangest friendship story. Or a disaster. Only time would tell. When Paul Dano came to the studio, he looked plain and modest. Very different from Tarantino's energetic drama. Marina, nice to meet you properly. Yesterday was interesting. Paul, welcome. I'm very curious. What do you think about this whole situation? Honestly? Flattering, but also overwhelming. The interview began, and Marina was going to ask careful questions, because she didn't want to experience another Tarantino explosion. But this time she wanted to learn Paul Dano's perspective. Hollywood's strangest obsession story had begun like this, and it wasn't over yet.